And right now on the Farm Bureau phone line, check out favorites.com and go with the home team, Mississippi Farm Bureau. Keith Carter, he is the athletics director at Ole Miss. And Keith, in some ways, the last 3 or 4 weeks of this football season with regard to the SEC schedule feel like a little bit of a shell game, where it's like you're just moving pieces around. Is that a good way to describe it right now? I know you have called it a fluid situation.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're forced to use a little more AD terms, Richard, than the shell game. But I think you're right. I mean, I think we've gotten to the point where, now we're dealing with some serious situations. I think that we're running out of weeks to play some of these games, and the SEC, by and large, the first 5 or 6, 7 weeks of the season, was pretty lucky from the standpoint of getting the games in. I know, we here at Ole Miss have been very fortunate to have handled COVID in a good way, and been fortunate for that. But now we got to do what we got to do, and I think you've seen some of these things that have come out from the league, and trying to be creative and trying to find ways to get the games played. So we'll continue to do that, but I certainly think here over the next 4 or 5 weeks it's going to be very interesting.
As a group, you guys voted for some scheduling flexibility over these final few weeks, and that certainly makes sense. Was there discussion about adding teams that are available to play as opposed to just sticking with who was currently on your schedule so that you could potentially have a chance to get everybody 10 games?
No, that was really never on the table, Richard. I think for us, the solutions we were trying to find, all involved, keeping the schedules the same, making sure that you're playing the same opponents, but just trying, finding creative ways to do that. And so, again, I think the goal was that if you've got, 2 healthy teams that are sitting at home based on the fact that their opponents can't play, then, you try to find a way to play that game, and hopefully that opens up a week later on that, a game combination, you could use that to finish out the season. But you never really wanted to dive into picking up other opponents. While I think it would have been highly entertaining for the fans and for the TV networks, that just was never, part of the solution.
I don't know if you can specifically answer this or not, and if you need to just, skip over it, feel free. Is the most likely scenario for Ole Miss, though, at this point, assuming the games are able to be played, to get Mississippi State next weekend and then have December the 5th off and then play A&M and then LSU with those two kind of pushed back? Just kind of as you look at the moving pieces that would allow for all the games to be played?
Yeah, I think if that's the way you're looking at it, then certainly we could see some disruption in the way our games are currently scheduled. And that LSU game on the 5th would probably be the one where, we might get asked to move that game to a later date. If you're just looking at it from an Ole Miss perspective, I think we would like to go ahead and just, keep the Mississippi State game, the LSU game the same. And then you've got to figure out A&M down the stretch, which obviously, points toward the 19th. With them likely having a game against Tennessee on the 12th. So, again, I think there's still a lot of scenarios to play out. But yeah, I think any of those things could potentially happen. And, obviously we voted on a scenario where, we would be open to those type of moves.
Yeah. Did it get close to having Mississippi State or LSU as an opponent this weekend based on kind of the testing stuff that was in place? I mean, did that ever feel like there was a legitimate chance that could have happened this weekend?
Well, I think with one of those teams, there was a little bit of a discussion based on some testing. I think all of those 4 opponents are scheduled to play and will likely be able to play. But there was one of those scenarios where they were a little close to the line, and there was maybe an extra discussion on, let's just keep an eye on this. But, obviously I think now we're moving forward, and we'll get to enjoy a nice weekend off.
Keith, what is your perspective on what this season has been? Obviously, it's a unique season with no non-conference games, all conference games, first year of a new head coach, dealing with COVID, all of those things. But in terms of on the field, what's your perspective of how year one has gone under Lane Kiffin?
Well, I'm excited. I think that there's so much to be excited about. You look at our offense and just some of the things we're doing, they're really pretty amazing, with some of the stuff that Matt and Elijah and really our whole offense is doing. It's been so fun to watch, and I think it's given a lot of energy, around our program. I think on the defensive side of the ball, we've had some inconsistency, obviously, and gotta shore that up and do some things there to get better. And but I just think overall, what we were trying to do was to bring energy back into the program, and I think we've certainly done that. Coach Kiffin, has done a lot of that himself, which is the way he markets the program and brands himself and those type of things. And that's exactly what we wanted when we brought him in. So I'm excited about that. But, it's hard to really judge this year, honestly, when you look at everything that's going on and, just having to deal with disruption and opt-outs and so many different things. But I would say overall it's been a good year. We certainly want to finish strong and hopefully go to a nice bowl game to cap it off.
Visiting with Keith Carter, athletics director at Ole Miss. Does Lane Kiffin keep you on your toes?
He does. And, it's been good. It's been good. I think Lane, as we all know, is a guy that thinks outside the box, and, he's always trying to find ways to do things that, what I love about him is he's always looking for an advantage. He's always looking for a way to put his team in a better position to win. And I think that's good. I think that's what you've got to do. You got to do that. And especially trying to get a program up and going and bring energy to the program. And I think it's been great. So we've had a lot of great conversations, and I anticipate we'll have a few more.
Keith, I probably should know the answer to this question, but I don't. Are we going forward with the early signing day, December signing day for football, even though there have been no visits? The dead period for, I don't know if it's all sports or spring sports, was just recently pushed out to April 15th. Do we still have the December signing day like we've had for the last couple of years?
We do. And actually the dead period is going to be for all sports. It hasn't officially been extended yet to April, but all indications is that it will. They actually, I believe, meet tomorrow. The council does. So, not only are we going to sign kids in December that our coaches have never physically met, we're probably going to sign them in February that they've never physically met. So it's an interesting, dynamic for sure. And, some of our other teams have had signing day in November. We obviously saw, basketball and baseball and some of these other sports, sign last week. And so it's hard. It's really hard. And I think for coaches like Coach Davis and Coach Bianco that have kind of established programs, have been there at least for a few years, it's a little easier for them. But for a new staff, it's hard. It's really hard when you're trying to, establish what you're trying to do as a program. And, a lot of the sell of coming to Ole Miss is coming to Oxford and feeling Oxford and feeling the campus and, learning a lot about what we do in Oxford and what we're about. And, not having that opportunity is going to make it difficult. But I commend all of our coaches for working hard, being creative with the way they're recruiting, whether it be via Zoom or, social media, those type of things. And they've done a really good job of that.
Keith, basketball season is scheduled to tip off in 8 days. You get the announcement today that Kermit Davis has tested positive. Are you confident that there is going to be basketball at the Pavilion on the 25th, 26th, and 27th?
Yeah, I think we are right now. Certainly we're doing the contact tracing from Coach Davis and kind of who he was around. But, I think early indications is that we're going to be okay. I did talk to Coach Davis this afternoon, and he's doing well and obviously isolating at home. And, you hate one for him to get the virus and you pray and hope for his well-being and his health there. But just from a basketball standpoint, just, not great timing. I think the last 2 days of his isolation will be the first 2 games of that initial tournament. So, Ronnie Hamilton will step up and coach the team, and a lot of capable coaches over there that can do that. But, we'll wish Coach Davis the best, and hopefully he can get back as soon as possible.
We know that we've got minimum roster thresholds and position group thresholds for football. Is any of that language in place for basketball?
No, it's not from a specific position standpoint. And I'll be honest, Richard, there's been a lot of discussion going back between, is it 7 or 8 players that you have to have available? I'm not exactly sure where we've landed on that, honestly. I need to find out. But there will be a threshold that if you don't have a certain amount of players, either 7 or 8, that you could postpone that game and play it at a later date. But
all right, so I got to interrupt you there. Wasn't there a game in your career? We were talking about this earlier. I think it was against Auburn on a Wednesday night where you guys went out and had only like 6 or 7 that dressed out.
Yeah, absolutely. My freshman year, we played. I think we had 5 scholarship players and a couple of walk-ons, and played the game. And that is an interesting dynamic. Obviously, COVID is a little different because it's contagious and you've got all these things going on. But there are a lot of cases where, whether it's injuries, whether it's suspensions, over the years, the teams have gone out there and played with not a lot of horses. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out this year as well.
Hunter had a big game that night, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He had a couple shots and played a lot of minutes, and it took us all that night. And it was a good win, and a game that we look back on as kind of the springboard to some really good things. So it was good to see Hunter out there that night.
Hey, always appreciate your time. Thanks for the insight.
Absolutely, Richard. Have a good one.
It's Keith Carter, Athletics Director at Ole Miss.